Okay, it is officially not an A to Z mini lyrics, my thoughts, ideas, changes, and so on and so forth on Mordekaiser. It's actually a my thoughts. So it's basically an A to Z, but not, because I'm not going to go into detail with any of his stuff. I don't care about any of this. I don't care about any of this. I'm really just going to be giving my opinion on some of this. So basically, I played Mordekaiser the other day, and then it rekindled my fire with him a little bit, because I really do enjoy playing Mordekaiser, but I hate it at the same time. Why? Because he is mind-dumbingly boring. Just mind-numbingly boring, I meant to say. His kit isn't interesting at all. It's like the simplest kit in the world. He joined the league of why do people play him, which in my opinion is like Annie, Garen. That's basically it. There are others in this list, but I don't remember them. I guess sort of Fiddlesticks, but like basically any difficulty 1 champion, because like they're just so simple. I guess Vigor is sort of in there too, but at least Vigor, like, you understand why people play him. It's fun. Like, it's fun to play Mordekaiser, but only, like, a little bit. You can only play him, like, 3 games in a row, and then you're like, I'm sick of doing the exact same thing. Like, spam your W in lane to not have to leave. Just hit your Q all the time. Pull people in. Ult the more important person or the ADC. Smack people to proc your passive. And honestly, I just kind of wanted to throw in my 2 cents of what I think the changes should be for him. But only with the abilities and nothing really else. I don't really know why, but like, I just got that idea stuck in my head of just trying to change him, and then it never really changed. I kept thinking of how we could change things up, not completely change him, because I'm not really a fan of completely changing champions. Whenever I think a champion is reworked, to be completely honest, I don't think they should get a full change, like, attention. I think they should only be partially changed. Mordekaiser, I think, was a lot changed from his original. And honestly, I think he needs to be reverted a little bit, but not a lot of it. And, like, I just, even with, like, the old Warwick versus the new Warwick, I kind of like that one. Because, like, it's like a revamp of the old kit. I think they kind of threw a little bit too much for the new Warwick, with him having so much shit that I don't think he should have. But it is a lot better than the easy-to-play champion was before. Same with, like, the new Urgot, where, like, he's still pretty similar to what he was before, but a lot different at the same time, but keeping a lot of the similarities. I do think they changed the new Urgot a little bit too much, but I actually do like the new Urgot, so I'm not complaining about that one that much. Mordekaiser, like, I even have seen a whole lot of other people even complain about the champion, saying, like, he's just too boring now, that, like, old Mordekaiser was a lot more, like, intuitive and everything else. So, I kind of came up with this kind of to solve that, but I'm not really 100% sure. I would like your opinion and everything on the matter, just like with an A to Z mini lyrics, thoughts, so on and so forth, yada yada. But, yeah, so here's just a pure, like, my thoughts, but only for Mordekaiser's abilities. So basically, I'll just go over his abilities, even though this is not an A to Z. Darkness Rise. Mordekaiser gains powerful damage, aura, and movement speed after landing 3 attacks or spells against champions. The movement speed is tiny. The passive actual damage, though, is not a lot, but hurts more than you expect it to. Obliterate. Mordekaiser smashes the ground with his mace, dealing damage to each enemy struck. Damage is increased when hitting a single enemy. So, you know, nothing insane. Indestructible. Mordekaiser stores damage he deals and takes to create a shield. He may consume the shield to heal. I actually pretty much do like this ability. And Death's Grasp. Mordekaiser pulls all enemies in an area. And then Realm of Death. Mordekaiser drags his victim to a different dimension with him and steals a portion of their stats if he kills them. He keeps the stats until the victim respawns. So there is a couple things that I have about this. So, I don't like I actually think that for the most part, he's good the way he is. But I do want to grab some of the things that were part of him previously and kind of return them to where they are. Such as before, old Mordekaiser was his passive is basically his W, where he'd get a shield based off of the damage he does. His Q was not at all what his current Q was, and it was like his next 3 auto attacks do more damage, increasing every auto attack. So like the first one would hurt, the second one would hurt a lot, and the third one would, oh my god, how did all my health bar disappear? I really don't remember which was his W and which was his E, but one was just an AoE in front of him, and then the other one was just basically what his passive is, only he could throw it on enemies, and then once that ended, it would heal. Heal him. And then his ult was previously that he'd mark an enemy and it just do damage to them over time, and if they died, then he would basically have a clone of them. The thing that I dislike, though, is that, like before, he could actually get a clone of the dragon, and it actually kind of annoys me that he can't do that anymore. So, what I think his kit should be is actually returning his old passive to, instead of having his W, but in a different way. So, I think that upon Mordekaiser, for his W/passive, what it will be is sort of like this, but not entirely. So his passive will be upon hitting an enemy champion or one of the larger monsters. I can't think of the actual terminology they use. Basically, dragon, red buff, or blue buff. Upon hitting that or the larger monsters, he marks them. Every consecutive auto attack against them, part of the damage is converted to a shield. So, after auto-attacking someone, the next auto-attack he does against them will give him a very small shield based off the damage his auto-attack did. But, every 3 consecutive damaging spells he hits on the marked enemy heals him for a portion of the damage from the last ability hit. So, it separates abilities and auto-attacks. Every single one of his auto-attacks against the person he hits first will give him a small shield based off of the damage, and every single time he hits them with 3 separate abilities, or sort of, because of the way I'm going to describe him, I'm changing his abilities, heals him for a portion of the last ability that hit him, like based off the damage that it did. So both are based off of damage, so that they're not based off like, oh, let me build full tank, and then let me get a ridiculous shield every time I auto-attack someone, because, yeah. Another thing is, like, his E has the capability of pulling multiple enemies. So what if you pull 2 champions to you? It'll be whoever is closest to him hit. So imagine Lucian here, and then this is Leona. He pulls both Lucian and Leona to him, and Leona will be the first one hit, so she'll be the one that becomes marked. Something like that. Now, like, his Q is also super AoE, so obviously it won't be whoever gets first hit, it will be who's ever closest to him. But so in this scenario, it would be Lucian, or the fake Leona. It would be Lucian because he is the closest distance to him. That will get marked by his passive. And they can honestly reuse some old assets and reuse his old ult, like, as a marking symbol of showing that, oh, you are marked, only that did kind of, like, they'd probably revamp it, at least make it look a little bit different, but they could use the same mechanics, just not make it do damage. And then every time, so like, imagine, okay, that just marked Lucian. Okay, now he would get a small shield. After that second attack, he'd get another small shield. And, yeah. That's how that would work. But now let's imagine that this animation, he cues him, auto-attack, small shield, auto-attack, small shield. And then when I'm actually going to turn this into his W, let's see, he activates his W, so this starts hitting him. So that will start, that will be like the first ability hit. Let's say he uses his E and his Q after that, that'll give him a shield. So then, because I already said it, I'm just going to go to his W. His W will basically be what his passive is currently, only slightly different. So, it will be, upon auto-attacking a, not upon auto-attacking, upon activation, a area of, like, whatever this call, a damaging aura will be summoned around him, start doing damage around him. while the aura is up, you also gain increased attack speed. The reason that you gain increased attack speed is to buff his passive. That way, after you hurt that champion, every time you auto-attack them with your increased attack speed, you're getting a shield. Now, it will not keep the increased movement speed, though. It'll only give him increased attack speed. And it's not going to be something insane if it would just be like a small percentage of what he already has. But if you do want to choose some like crazy build or something, you could build full attack speed Mordekaiser and auto-attack people so quick that your shield is just never ending. Now, that would be very difficult to do, but hey, it's a possibility thing. So now we'll actually go to his E, because his Q is actually something kind of special that I want to save last. His E, I wouldn't change. Honestly, I like his new E. I don't like the ability he had before where he just did damage in a cone in front of him. Like, why? I think the passive on his E, which it's not currently showing, about him gaining magic, or not magic resist, magic penetration, is also really nice, and I think it's just a good touch. Plus, his passive doesn't really show it either, but his auto attacks do scale with his ability power a little bit as well. But I do just, honestly, I like his E. I think that it's fine. It really puts his kit together. It allows, like, everything else in his kit to work. His E is not not his full bread and butter, but it is essentially his bread and butter, because if he did not have something to close the gap or bring you to him, then, like, he just wouldn't be able to do anything. Like, his E is to pull people closer, an auto attack, and then a Q. Now he gains increased movement speed plus a damage around him from his passive. Like, it's just his bread and butter. So honestly, I'd keep it the exact same way, because I'm still trying to keep his kit the same. Like as I said, I'm not trying to change him a lot. I'm trying to keep it similar enough to where he still plays the same way, but like just add more interest to it. And then I'm kind of mixing his current Q, Obliterate, with his old Q. So as I said, his old Q was after activation, your next 3 auto attacks do more damage, doing more damage with each consecutive auto attack. So that's what I'm actually trying to do with his Q as well. But it's going to work a little bit differently. So imagine if Riven's Q slash Aatrox's Q, because it's basically the same thing, instead of every time the cooldown resets, here I'll go to them real quick to like I'll show Aatrox because he's more of what I'm talking about. His Q is 1 time this, 2nd time this, 3rd time this. Imagine if it was only this. Okay, so imagine if you would only do the first slam every single time you hit it because you're hitting it right away. Imagine that instead of it doing all 3 animations at once, or like, well, not at once, each activation, imagine if you had to let the ability stack up for it. That kind of like Tarek, in a sense, to where you'd let his Q build up all 3 times and then the heal would be bigger. But instead it would be for this. You'd like the first time it stacks, it go to this. Like just an ability that stacks up with itself. So that is essentially what his Q would be. His Q would basically always be on cooldown until it builds up to its 3rd time. So you'd hit your Q once, and this is what it would do. It would just slam down. And honestly, it would do even less damage than what it does currently. It'd be a very small amount of damage, and it wouldn't really do anything too excessive. But then you let your Q stack up again, or not stack up, but like let's say you waited and your Q stacked up to all 3 times. Then you'd hit it again, and it slammed down again, only do more damage. And then you can hit it a 3rd time, and it would slam down again and do more damage. So, but it would also be color organized, which you see how that had a blue area down here. Now the 2nd time he used it, it will be yellow, and the 3rd time he used it, it'll be red. But it will only do increased damage if you hit something the first time. And it has to be like an enemy champion or an enemy whatever. That way, you're like hitting the ability, it becomes very important. It's not like it's just going to do, you can miss the first 2 and then your 3rd one's just going to one-shot somebody. Nah. So you'll do this, you landed the ability. Now your mace will become like yellow or something. You let your Q stack up all 3 times, so you do it again. They just hit another person, your moves become red, and then the third time, that would be like a one-shot capability type of thing. You slam that down, and if there's someone squishy in front of you, they disappear. But it would have to be, you'd have to let the ability stack up 3 times, and you'd have to actually, like, let that happen. And, like, imagine, like, letting his passive. Okay, so you auto attack a person once, or you'd hit someone with your E. Okay, you pull them in, and then that makes them the targeted person, as I said, with his new passive. Then you hit your Q, slam, hit him once. Hit your Q again, slam, hit him twice. Hit your Q a third time, slam, just completely killed them. And let's say you were half HP, now you just recovered 10% of your HP because that last slam does that much damage. And that's how they know that could work. Now, also, because you'd probably, like, use your E, activate your W, and then you'd hit your Q, allowing you to slam down. That would, being that only your second Q would do it. Now, as I said, your Q would not just go through the cooldown and then immediately let you to slam down again all 3 times. You'd have to let it go through the cooldown 3 separate times. But I would add something with your other abilities. Or I'd let you do auto attacks to make the cooldown smaller. So, you know how Skarner, every time Skarner auto attacks a champion, his Q lowers its cooldown by a second. I don't know if you knew that, but now you do. So, because of that, imagine the same thing with this. Every time Mordekaiser auto attacks or lands an ability, his Q cooldown is automatically decreased by a second. So, at first, that really won't be anything that big, because let's just say he just keeps spamming his Q. It will only allow him to use that first proc, so it won't really do that much damage. But let's say he's not spamming his Q, he just keeps auto attacking you, landing his E, his W on you, and then the next thing you know, he uses his Q not in rapid succession, because there will be a second between each time you can use it, but just one, then another, and now your health bar is gone. Then I do have a small change with his passive. Or not with his passive, with his R. So honestly, as I said, I don't like the fact that he can't have like a ghost dragon anymore, but I can understand it, and like I'm not saying that we should change that and allow him to use it on dragon, but I do miss that. So I would allow him to keep his realm of death. But the problem that I don't like about it currently is that it really doesn't have that impact on the game. It's not that good of an ability. It seems like it's a really good ability, but it's really not as great as it is. It does have multiple purposes, which I like, but that's about all that's really good about it. Upon you using it, you're just going to pull someone into a dimension, which is really cool in terms of a gank or not letting someone leave, but it's basically a Camille ult, only the allies can't help. Because like it doesn't increase your stats, it just kind of lets you have a possibility of increasing your stats. If you're already losing against the target, it's not going to help at all. If anything, you're going to trap yourself in the area and prevent that. At least Camille could walk out of it herself, and that would automatically end her ult. But no, like, you can't even walk out of it yourself. So, it does make things a bit annoying. So, honestly, what I usually use it for is to grab high priority targets. But if you're also the high priority for their team, you're essentially taking yourself out the fight too. Such as, there's been times where I was the most fed on my team, and I'd click on their ADC. I'd kill their ADC, but then as soon as I get out of that world, 2 of my allies are dead, maybe all 4 of them, and it's me versus 4 of the members on their team. And I'm fed, but I'm not fed enough to kill all 4. So I just end up dying. The other time that I actually kind of like it a little bit more is the one time I played against a Renekton. The Renekton kicks my ass. He got fed off me. He went to other team members and he killed them. But then I slowed down, I farmed up, and I got a lot of armor. So every time the Renekton was the only strong member on their team. The rest of them were okay. So I would just ult the Renekton. And my goal would not be to kill the Renekton. I was not to get his stats. It was to survive. I would just pull him away, smack him, slow him, and run, and not really try to fuck with him much. But like if I did die, okay. The goal of the matter was just to get my team enough time to kill their team, which they did. They'd kill their entire team, and then by the time I either died or my ult ended, they would just all jump on the Renekton and kill him. And yeah, it was like the only real like useful thing with it. But that's like all that really happened. So like if you're capable of one-shotting someone, like if you become Mordekaiser and you just one-shot a fucker, then okay, that's actually pretty good because you'll get their stats instantly and then you can go help your team immediately. But if you're not capable of one-shotting them, it's really not that great. And that's essentially what I'm trying to fix. So I do believe they should still get a Death Realm. It prevents, enemies or allies from helping. But the thing that I would mostly change is that, one, it does give you like a percent max HP increase when you use your ult. And two, that either the area of the duration is smaller or it shrinks over time. Such as the ability itself, like, I believe it lasts for like 5 seconds you stay in his realm. Imagine if at 3 seconds, the realm's AoE, like the entire area of all this, was half that, and it was just this. Now, yeah, that'd be a bit kind of broken with his W, but make his W either, well, okay, with his passive, but when if all these changes were made, it'd be his W. But like, let's just not make it that small, but just make it slowly decrease in size over time. And yeah, I do think that would be a pretty good like change. It allows you to actually fight the target and allow him to be able to like end it. If he hits R again, he can just end it. And honestly, I'm not quite sure what else I really want it to do. I like that it gives you the stats, and like I don't know how else to really change it more, because it kind of defeats the purpose if you throw someone into it, because then it literally, and like the allies and everything can help, because yeah, it's no longer really as useful as it was before. If anything, I'd make it so that allies and enemies can like attack you and him and attack each other in your area, but every person, including your own ally, would have drastically reduced damage. Such as like, imagine if 60% of your allies and your enemies' stats were just reduced, and you and the other person were the only person that had regular stats, but then you and the other person would just become too strong, like the other person could just run over your team, and then you could just try to run over theirs. So I do believe that you should still get sent to another dimension, just you two, that it just decreases in size, and that you get a small health buff, based off of the health of the person that you ultied. Such as if you ulti an ADC, your buff is not going to be as big. If you ulti the tankiest member on their team, you're going to get a much bigger health buff. And then upon your ulti ending, whether you kill the target or you didn't, you will get a speed boost. Why? Because the amount of times someone runs away, not like in your ulti, but like afterward, or you have to run away, is a lot. When I ulti someone on the enemy team, when all 5 of them are there, I kill the 1, and then the other 4 are just waiting for me out of that. I would like to have at least slightly smaller of a chance of getting out alive. Now, I don't expect to get out alive, but I would definitely like to have the capability. And so I think whether you win it or you lose it, you just gain just a small little increase in movement speed. I definitely think that would be helpful. You'd be able to chase, and you'd be able to run better. So in a recap, his passive would become his current W. He'd mark someone, whether hitting them with an ability or an auto attack. Then every consecutive auto attack after that would increase would get you a shield, and every consecutive three abilities of hitting an enemy Now, it would not include, like, as I said, this would become your W, like the AoE around you. That would only be affected once. It would only happen one time towards your passive, based off the damage it did, and then heal you based off of it. Your Q would be allowed to stack to 3, and every time you hit an enemy champion with your Q, it will increase the next Q's damage. And then your W would just become the AoE around you. That would do more damage, and then it would also increase your attack speed as long as it's active. And then your E would be the exact same thing. Your Q, I forgot to also say that it would, every time you auto attack or hit another ability besides your Q, it would lower the cooldown by a singular second. And then your R would slowly have the area of it shrink over time, and gives you a small amount of max HP increase based off of whoever you ultied, depending on their HP. So I do think that it is just a good quality of life changes. Nothing major, but nothing like too small, I guess, except for the E, which really didn't change at all. I think that it would definitely make the champion a lot more playable and a lot more fun to play, but I don't think it's going to break them and make them way too strong. I definitely think that a lot of tweaking would have to be made with like his Q and his like passive, because if every time he auto attacks he gets like a tenth of his HP based off of the every time he auto attacks you, the shield is too big, or like whatever the percentage is. It can definitely gonna need tweaks, but I don't think any of it's gonna be too difficult. And honestly, I understand these changes are definitely not going to be made. Riot Games is definitely not going to see this YouTuber that's less than 1,000 subscribers and say, you know what, I agree, let's let this, they don't actually know how old I am, but this 20-some-year-old person decide how our champion should work. I agree that they're definitely not going to make these changes. But if you do like or dislike the changes that I've said, please leave a comment down below. Maybe that we can bring it to their attention or something, and then they actually say, hey, let's do a few of these or something. Sorry. But hopefully that these, or at least some of the changes or something, or they do relook at Mordekaiser and say, okay, the community's really not liking him that much, and he's really brain dead, so let's rev it up just a little bit. And yeah, maybe Riot Red Alert, which I have as a friend for some reason, I don't know why, will go to the balancing division and the other things and go like, hey, I like this person's take on Mordekaiser, maybe we should work with that. I'm not really expecting anything in return or any changes to be made, but honestly, if they are, fantastic, and I hope that it makes the game a better, more enjoyable experience, especially with Mordekaiser, especially as playing as Mordekaiser. Because I do like playing as Mordekaiser, but like I can only play like so many games in a row before I go, because like, this is too boring. So yeah, I'm going to thank you all very much for watching. As I said, if you have a comment or anything down below, please, or anything down below, if you have a comment or anything, please put it down below. I will gladly respond, and you know, hopefully this can actually have a discussion, and maybe Riot actually does anything about it. So thank you very much, and I am going to bid you all adieu. Goodbye.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids scream